All right, so we're back with another podcast from VR. Parting the Veil, Episode 1, Part 2. I love this podcast. It is so much fun. And we are still talking about Pantheon. We are still talking about it being quote-unquote niche. There was a lot of discussion about whether it was niche or niche in the last one. I think I've settled on 100% niche. It just makes me sound more intelligent. But anyway, let's get right into it with a quote from Part 2 from Joppa.
I think it's very critical that I make very clear the systems and the features and the elements that I believe are going to take Pantheon to that place are solidly defined and have been set in motion for a long time. Don't confuse that we are just now getting to the implementation of some of these systems as if they are coming out of nowhere. These specific designs and features have been solidified for a long time, ever since 2015. And Brad invited me to sit down with the high-level design document for Pantheon and dream. That's the inception of these things. It literally was an invitation to dream. What would make your heart and your imagination soar to see in an MMORPG?
And again, Joppa's just highlighting that, like, we're not making the same MMO over and over and over again. We are not making a clone of any other game. They are dreaming and have been dreaming since 2015. And that was the great thing. And for me, that was the great thing about having Brad involved. Brad was a dreamer. That's what we all loved about Brad. He had huge ideas, and a lot of them didn't work out, but some of them did. And that's why EverQuest was so great, because it worked out. Brad's dream came into alignment with reality, and what we got from that was an amazing game. And then Brad dreamed again, and Vanguard was born. And Vanguard itself didn't actually work out, mostly probably because of the funding and just some of the hiccups in bringing a game and something as large as an MMO to life. But the dream and the scope of that game I thought were excellent. It was just the implementation of it that didn't work out. And so Brad and Joppa back in 2015 were dreaming and making all these insane ideas, and then they settled on them, and now here in 2021 we're finally getting the implementation of that. And I just think that's so exciting and so just awesome to see. I love watching all these elements come online. I love watching the climbing come online, the perception system come online, the disposition system come online, and I'm excited to see how they do guilds, how they do raid bosses, if it's going to be totally open world, what their plan is for that. And so, but these things we may not know, but they know them, and they have a plan for them. And it's just about putting the ones and zeros, the code in there to figure out how it's going to be implemented. And I am so excited to see it.
Oh man, see, this is music to my ears. This is the kind of stuff that I need to hear from Joppa, because I'm always as impressed as I am constantly with his creativity and vision. Along with that comes an equal amount of concern, not even concern, but more of a, respect for the fact that vision and creativity never ends. With somebody who's truly a creative, it never ends. And so what I worry about is that when does that stop? When does it become locked in? This goes back to what the previous episode 1 of Parting the Veil talked about with the mounting system and the taming system. And as excited as I am for something like that to be in the game, it's counterbalanced by when do they stop coming up with new ideas and systems to come into the game, and when does that sort of process end? So, their fundamentals are there, the perception system, climbing, the dispositions. I love that he talked about them being around since 2015. And I also want to emphasize that this is why certain games resonate with me. I once had the opportunity to say to Joppa that I really felt that his creative vision was coming through in the design and the way that Pantheon feels when you play it. And I stand by that message. And I think that, when you hear something like this about how important it is to dream big and to have big vision, just reinforces that.
Like human beings are likeners. I think many are anyway. I am a likener to the core, meaning I understand things best by comparing them or likening them to something else. Whether I'm having a conversation with my wife or having a discussion at work or whatever it may be, trying to learn something new, I'm always naturally likening, and it's just how I am wired. But I think universally we do that. We compare and contrast, and we come to conclusions about things based on what we observe, the observable similarities with things that we've experienced before. So I think it's natural on one hand that you would look at any game in development and you would begin to, even subconsciously, perhaps pick apart the things that seem or remind you of something that has come before.
Yeah, that's a great thing that I want to discuss that Japa said there, because this is what Pantheon is doing that I think makes it hard for people to discuss intelligently, because they're doing things that haven't been done in the MMO space before. And I think they like to focus on those new aspects, right? I think that is something that excites them and gets their creative juices flowing. So there's not as much emphasis on some of the old stuff, and it's easy to overlook that. So when they talk about climbing, they talk about perception, they talk about, dispositions. There's very few equivalents. There are few, and I think that there's some room for discussion around what those might be. But the problem being is that when somebody says they're making an MMORPG, there's absolute requirements that people need to know about it, and they've done that. I mean, I'm not saying that information isn't out there, but that's not what they think they want to emphasize. They want to emphasize how Pantheon's going to evolve the genre in itself. And when you start doing that, it's easy for the community to think that those fundamentals aren't there. There's no, what kind of game is this? Is this an MMO or is this something else? Are you doing something different? So those likeners, our likener brains, as Japa describes it, which I tend to agree with, don't have anything to really ground themselves on sometimes. And I think that's maybe where some of the misconceptions about Pantheon come in.
Well, as usual, I'm not sure the Ranger got it quite right. And honestly, he probably died 3 times making this video, so I don't know if we should really listen to him. When I hear Japa talk about likeners, I think about myself, right? I love to love the same things over and over and over again. I drive home from work the same way every day. It doesn't matter if there's traffic because I like it. I like to play the same games. I go for years on games. I played XCOM for years. I played League of Legends for years. I played EverQuest for years. Like I get stuck in the same games. Now I know that inside myself I'm always looking for the next great game, and I'm always looking for the next thing, but I'm so drawn to likening what I know that I already love that I get stuck in ruts. And so what I think Japa's doing here is gently trying to push us, gently trying to nudge us in the direction of, hey, this is going to be the next game that you love for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, right? The next game that you love for a long period of time, and that we understand that you like all the old games and all the old MMOs, and we understand that, that you're comfortable with that. But what needs to happen is once Pantheon gets out there, once everybody start playing, is they're going to start to get, this is going to be the new standard. This is going to be the new threshold where people are going to say, well, this is now what I like, and this is now what I want to consume, and everything else is going to have to be a clone of this, because they are pushing forward with new ideas that they think will break the MMO genre and open it up wide open for the next game, for huge creativity, for huge steps forward and huge improvement, which honestly I think the MMO genre has needed for years. Like, it's grown so stale and so old. And so I am super excited about that. Even though I am a super likener, and even though I sometimes get caught in a rut, I am all in for something new and something that's going to be exciting and fresh in the MMO genre. Draq Attack, out.